Welcome to Bots in the Building. My name is Michele Davis and I'm your host. And in case you're wondering, are you in the right place? You actually are. This podcast is formally known as the Boss Experience. And for 160 episodes, this podcast was dedicated to helping small business entrepreneurs grow their business through automation and digital marketing. So we're entering a new phase with Bots in the Building. And this podcast is going to focus on where AI integration meets team adoption. So if you're saving for the first time, prior to my 10 years or so in digital marketing and building automations, and in the last several years, my business has focused on AI integration. And prior to that, I had a whole nother career. I spent a couple of decades working with governmental and nonprofit entities, and 16 years was spent as a manager. And over the course of those 16 years, I implemented so many changes in how we handle clients, changes in our processes, changes in just our mindset and our mind frame around doing new things to better serve the clients that we worked with. And I also had my share of technology changes as well, where, I had to lead my team through adopting a new software. So when we think about change management, I've had my share in implementing change with organizations, and it's not enough to decide to make a change if the very team that's supposed to use and implement whatever it is that you come up with, if they don't integrate it in their daily workday, it means nothing. So this podcast is dedicated to not just helping people install tools and systems, because that's the easy part. This podcast is dedicated to getting people to adopt the change. So with that said, let's get into the episode. See, society is shifting, in case you haven't noticed, and it's not just with AI. It's shifting in a way that is making AI and just digital skills a natural transition, like it or not. And, this isn't about, whether it's right or wrong or anything like that. This is just the reality that's happening in the world we live in. And we're either going to be a part of it and be a part of this shift, or we're going to get left behind. Our companies will get left behind. Our businesses will get left behind. So it's really up to us to move and change with the times. My name is Michele Davis, and I'm the host. And in this episode, we're talking about the shift nobody is fully prepared for. Because when we talk about AI integration, AI is very broad. That's a very broad term. And it's not just Chat GPT, it's not just, finding the best prompts. We're entering a new era of what AI actually is, what it means to integrate into our operations. And the conversation we have today is going to be, things are going to look different even 3 months from now. And you have to be ready for it. And I think most companies and organizations and small business owners are really underestimating the impact that AI is going to have on their business, particularly the ones that are in denial about the shift that's happening around them. And whether you like it or not, it's happening. I mean, I just called my dentist today to confirm my appointment. And the new thing is, oh, yes, this call is being monitored for quality assurance by AI. Okay. So we're in the shift now, and you have to really prepare your organization for it. Otherwise, you'll be left behind. That's just the reality of where we are. And the changes are moving really, really fast. Everything I'm sharing in this particular episode are things that I'm observing based on the data that I see, based on what's happening in business, what's happening, particularly here in the US. And the first shift I think no one's really ready for is that 4-year degree isn't worth what it used to be. When I first got my bachelor's degree, I have a bachelor's in forensic psychology and a master's in public administration. People cared. Businesses cared, companies cared, and I was able to walk into nonprofit sector and get employment pretty easily because I had that degree. Not so much the case as we evolve into more of a technology oriented era. People care less about what degree you have and they care more about the skills that you possess, particularly as it relates to AI and digital. And if you don't believe me, just take a search on LinkedIn, jobs, or Indeed, and you will see how many jobs there are that are actually requiring AI as a minimum qualification or some kind of AI proficiency or digital proficiency. And this shift is not coming from colleges or educators, it's coming from employers. And I'm not saying that's the case with every job, but when we look at what's considered entry level positions, they're no longer requiring that degree or it's holding less weight. And part of this shift is, of course, what's happening in technology as a whole, but also a big part of it is the cost of higher education and people not getting that ROI that they had hoped for after spending tens and thousands of dollars and going into debt and getting education. That mindset is gone. People aren't willing to do that anymore. Not to mention, it takes years to get a bachelor's degree. It takes a minimum of 4 years. Younger people are ready to get into the workforce. They don't want to spend 4 years trying to meet some minimum requirement that didn't get their parents any further ahead. And research from the Burning Glass Institute from 2017 to 2022 shows that the degree requirement dropped significantly across multiple sectors. People just don't want that anymore. And another contributing factor to why things are shifting is there's a significant gap between what people are actually taught and what employers actually need or what the job market requires. Case in point was when I was going to school to get my master's degree in public administration, I remember taking a budgeting class and actually reading a bunch of books, spending a lot of money on books, and never actually learning how to create a budget. I never learned how to create a budget. And people are going into debt and coming out and not being equipped to actually take on roles in the real life job force. And it's just the reality. My daughter is in college and I made the decision to put her in school because I want her to have some basic education going into the job force. I mean, she's almost at the point of graduation now, but even in her school, and she's in a business program, I would say 90% of the students at her level as a junior are not Canva proficient. They don't know how to create graphs. They don't know how to create anything that's useful in the workforce. And the only reason my daughter knows is because I've shown her. But that is a telling sign that students aren't learning what they need to actually succeed in the workplace. And I'm seeing that in workforce development programs as well. People are still being trained on how to get low wage jobs when that's not the direction of where we're going in terms of the job market. And even after my daughter graduates, I've already laid out a plan. Okay, so you'll have your bachelor's. I told her, a master's at this is no longer necessary. It's no longer necessary. What you need after your bachelor's is some digital skills, and that is our plan. She's going to learn digital skills because after 3 years of college, I hate to say it, but that's not what she's learned. She's learned a lot of theory. She'll have a piece of paper, and once she gets that piece of paper, it'll be time for her to actually learn the skills to not only help her get her first professional job, but also for her to survive the shift because we're just at the beginning of the shift, the real shift in terms of people seeing an entirely digital workforce is just, we're just at the start of it. and it's only going to progress. So I say all of that to say the skills gap between education and employment is just widening. The organizations and companies that are starting to address this and starting to build a plan to upskill their workforce or or build a plan for what their organization will look like in a digital age, they're ahead of the game. And if you're not at that point yet and you're in a position of authority, you may want to think about what that looks like for your organization so you can start putting your plan together. The second shift I'm seeing, and again, this is just my observation, is how we access healthcare is changing. And the greatest example of that has been how telehealth has really evolved and become kind of like a natural thing. When it started in 2020, people were hesitant. They, weren't sure about seeing their doctor online. And now it's an everyday thing. You can get mental health services online. You can jump on a virtual session with your primary care physician. Things are just different. They're different. So before the pandemic, it was unheard of to be able to do those things virtually. Now it's a natural thing for people to expect to have the ability to jump on especially if it's nothing that your doctor has to actually physically see or look at you for. Why drive and spend gas money and take the time to go and for a medical visit when you can go online and visit with your doctor? And we're seeing a lot of that with the GLP-1 medication. We're seeing people getting prescriptions without ever having to physically see a doctor because their primary care physician isn't prescribing the medication for them, even though people need it. And I know it once started as, for diabetics, but anybody can get a GLP-1 from, a medical care provider without, right from your couch. You don't ever have to leave your house and you get everything shipped to you. So these companies are also providing other services to people, other medications, and it's not just GLP-1s. When it's turned into vitamins, it's turned into nutritional counseling, and it's turned into even some mental health services for some of these providers. All you have to do is look at their website. Anyone that sells GLP-1s, more than likely, it's not just the GLP-1s they're selling other services. And so we're seeing that shift where people are going to pay like a monthly fee and they'll get very limited healthcare. And I say very limited because, this isn't a shift that's like good for the chronically ill. It's good for people that are predominantly healthy, that don't need to go in and see their doctor, consistently or be in front of a doctor. We're seeing the shift with lab work. You can sit on your computer and order lab work and self-pay. A lot of what's happening is becoming self-pay where the patient is really in needing to be in charge of their health care and kind of determine what they want. And whether it's frustration or pricing, we don't know. And when I say frustration with not being heard at their doctor. There's a lot of health information online, a lot of people on social media, on YouTube, and people are consuming that information. Some of it good, not all of it. But a lot of people are consuming that information and they're doing their own research and they're looking for holistic solutions. They're not looking to dump a bunch of medication into their body. And I think people have been frustrated because your doctor is not for healing you, your doctor is for treating you. So when you go to the doctor, if you have an ailment, they're not going to heal it or even in a lot of cases diagnose the source of that issue. Their job is to give you a medication to treat the symptoms, and people are wanting something different. So whether the change is due to frustration with the healthcare system or the cost, I don't know, but it's definitely changing. So the third thing I want to mention is how companies and organizations hire is shifting. I shared before about the degrees, but when you look at skills and what jobs are going to stay and what jobs are going to still be around, we're forgetting another major part here. And that part is yes, some jobs are going to go away. Mainly those kind of low skill jobs, those will go away or take a different form, take a different shape or form. We'll have really highly skilled jobs like your HVAC, your plumbing, construction. Those things are not going to be taken over by AI. Maybe, in terms of construction, maybe the design of a home, yes, but not, AI isn't going to come and fix your sink. If it goes out, you're going to want a plumber for that. So there's some jobs that, yes, they'll be going away. There's some jobs that are pretty safe when you talk about, the trade industry, which never required a degree. But there's also jobs that will be created as a result of this technical shift we're going through. And those jobs are going to center around integration, testing, AI testing, AI trainers, because as people are developing all these different models, you have to have humans to make the technology respond and do what it's supposed to do for the humans it's going to serve. And we've already seen some shifts with this in terms of, when we check in at the doctor. In the past, we've checked in at the desk. Now it's like they send you a link to your phone, right? They send you a link to the phone, to your phone. You check in that way. You take a screen, a photo of your ID. You take a photo of your insurance card, and that is how you check in. This particular method of check-in is, not friendly to people who aren't tech savvy. It's not friendly to people that are seniors and have no desire to learn tech, but yet that is the direction we're headed. That's how we're evolving as a society. So, and like I said in the beginning, I'm not saying what's right or wrong. I'm just stating my opinion about what's happening, what's shifting. And the fourth and final point I want to make is one of a big thing of what I'm seeing is most people don't actually understand what AI actually is because you have people that are saying, I'm seeing posts on Facebook like, I hate AI or AI has ruined authenticity. People that say that they don't really understand the scope of where AI is going. And what they're thinking about when they say those things is they think AI is basically the strange videos you're seeing on social media, the weird the weird images, or they think AI is just like writing your content. And we're entering into where AI can actually take on tasks and act autonomously. And we're entering this phase of what's being called as agentic AI. And an agentic AI is AI that acts on its own. All it needs is to be set up, trained, monitored, and it can make decisions. It can organize your Gmail. It can go through your Google Drive and organize documents. You can actually have agents, an AI agent, send email or to supervise other AI agents. It's about, when we think about agentic AI, it's having specialized AI agents running certain aspects of your company, your business. Some employers have even caught on to like, hey, we can actually set this up for our employees where, employees have their own AI team doing tasks for them, helping them be more productive. And that's really where we're headed. People are building systems, and those systems are powering their operations and powering what they do and how they function in their day to day in their businesses. So when someone says, oh, I can't stand the fact that that was written by AI or, this was written by AI, they're not really seeing what AI can fully do. And so therefore they cannot appreciate it, or they're getting upset about the wrong things, and they really need to look at what the scope of AI actually is. And it's far greater than that crazy video you saw, or, and some of them are pretty bad, you know, but it far exceeds any of those things that you're seeing online, because you have a lot of people that are coming out of the ashes just to sell you the latest AI tool. But when it comes to really building out the systems, number one, they've never worked in an entity that where they understand what a system is. So how do they build one? But number two, they're just peddling, the latest AI tools because that's what people are paying attention to. And so, as things shift and evolve, you're going to see more focus on agentic AI as opposed to just, the fly-by-night AI that really, when you think about it, cloning yourself and all of that stuff, that's not the extent of AI, and that's not what true integration really is about. Okay. Everything I just said is already in motion. None of this is something that's happening in the future. It's happening now. The shift in how we think about degrees or the importance of degrees, how we get our health care, the skills that we need to be marketable in the workplace, and, the use of AI to actually make our decisions independent of us is happening now. It's not happening in the distant future. And the companies and organizations that navigate this well are the ones that see technology integration, AI integration, as the leadership and operational change that it is, not just a technology purchase or a software purchase. So, in this season, starting with the next episode, I'm going to get very specific in terms of what digital integration, AI integration actually is. And this is coming from a perspective of 16 years as a leader, working as a leader, implementing change in nonprofit organizations and governmental entities, in addition to a decade in the digital space, designing automations, and now AI powered systems. So this isn't coming from inexperience or someone who hasn't worked in a position of high leadership in organizations. I know how organizations work. I know what it takes for change to take hold. It's not just, walking into your team one day and saying, hey, we're doing this and we're going to make this change, and thinking it's going to, that change is going to result in long-term adoption. That's not how change works. It never has. And so I look forward to this season and really just kind of sharing, what change management looks like when it comes to AI integration. And everything I'll mention in this series are things that companies are not really doing. They're like rushing because technology is like so far ahead of them. It's moving so fast and they can't keep up, and they're not really taking a lot of things, and very important things, into consideration. So, if you're responsible for technology decisions at your organization or company and want a clear picture of where to start, send me a message. You can reach me at info@gemstoneconsultingservices.com, or head over to gemstoneconsultingservices.com/schedule to schedule some time so that we could talk through what that looks like for your company. And it's going to be the best 20 minutes you can spend. If you're planning to spend tens of thousands of dollars to move your company into being powered by AI, it'll be the best 20 minutes you can spend before you make that type of investment. And you'll come away with one important thing that to move you forward in your quest, to integrate AI into your company or into your business. And like I said, you can head over to gemstoneconsultingservices.com/schedule, or you can go down to the show notes and the link is there as well. And there's also info@gemstoneconsultingservices.com if you want to send me an email and reach out to me personally. So with that said, that concludes this episode. I'd love to hear your feedback on it and what your thoughts are, and what are some things that you're seeing that maybe I didn't mention. Some writing on the wall, so to speak, when we look at where the direction of where we're going. as a society. I'd love to hear your thoughts. So with that said, see you in the next episode.